I'm Erasmo Guerra, and I'm reading from my book Once More to the River, Family Snapshots of Growing Up, Getting Out, and Going Back. Once More to the River. Each summer as a young girl, Maria Guadalupe crossed the Rio Grande into Mexico to spend the long months at the ranch that belonged to her family. They rode to the riverbank by taxi, steered by her Tío Garcia. He was fat, she says, which is all she remembers about him and the drive to the Los Ébanos ferry, which she calls El Chalán. Her father never went. None of her brothers remember going either, though she insists that they did. It may have just been the women, Maria and her sister Belsa, their mother Victorina, and their Aunt Petra and cousin Elvita. The taxi would leave them at the river, and they would board the hand-pulled ferry on foot. The ferry is named after the surrounding community of Los Ébanos, which is named after the Texas ebony, a thorny tree with horned moon husks. White-winged doves nest in its branches. The black-brown seeds are eaten by wild tusked pigs. Los Ébanos is one of those communities that upstate folks cannot resist calling sleepy and quiet. The truth is that everyone is miles away at work on the morning that I ride through town with Maria Guadalupe. She's no longer that young girl of summer, but my mother, a woman in her late 50s who smells of coconut-scented sunscreen and nerves still rattled by the skin cancer recently removed from the bridge of her nose. This ride out to Los Ébanos was just an excuse to get out of the house. Most of the houses here are made of clapboard or cinder block. The smaller mud brick and straw jacals seem slumped over with the pain of calcified bones. At the local cemetery, the decorative arch proclaims La Puerta. My mother turns off at the sign for the ferry. The paved road becomes dirt. Up ahead, a line of dusty Chevy pickup trucks and Crown Victorias with tinted windows are parked on the downward slope toward the river. They're waiting for the ferry boat, which is banked on the Mexican side, but we're not driving across. We haven't risked that since the late 70s. We park under the shade of a mesquite where a posted sign warns against carrying firearms into Mexico, and walk to the wooden shack that serves as a toll booth. A man with an apron heavy with coins charges the 50 cents. "It used to be a quarter," my mother gripes. "Pues ya no, señora," the man says. "Now it's 50 cents. I hand over the dollar for the both of us. Across from the shack or the Border Patrol barracks, 2 khakied agents sit outside waiting for the next load from Mexico. As my mother and I wait for cars to disembark and cars to board, we spot a pair of swim trunks discarded under the thick brush. The drawstring is knotted, the mesh lining bunched and crawling with ants. The Mexico-bound cars start their engines. My mother hurries alongside, covering her nose and eyes against the upchurned dust, threatening to stumble and go head over tennis shoes into the dirt or the river. "Buenas," she says to the ferryman as we set foot onto the metal ramp. Downriver, between the banks of the two countries, a flat-bottomed boat cuts a silhouette against the glare off the water. La Migra. The agents are motionless as they watch us drift. The river current floats us to Mexico, which means crossers must swim against the current to get to the United States. "Now, how many cars pass back and forth each day?" my mother asks a ferryman. He turns to the others for an estimate. When they don't answer, he shrugs. "Maybe around 50. "And why do you stop service at 4 o'clock? "Because that's a full day. From 8 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's 8 hours. "Right," my mother says. And then she looks at me with an arched brow to make sure I got that. Did she want me to write about this? About her? She's been a vocal critic of my work, but maybe she'll come around if I write about her. She tells the ferryman that she used to ride this thing as a girl on summer trips to the family ranch in Santa Gertrudis. He nods and then joins the others who have distanced themselves from our leisure life. For them, this is just another workday. They are middle-aged Mexicans, sunburned brown, who wear baseball caps and T-shirts. These are the kind of men who don't miss a day of work unless they wake up and find out that they have died during the night.